Hi, this is Matthew, myself a UPSC trainer, and this channel is providing free video tutorials for the aspirants and candidates preparing for civil service examination. And in this session, we are going to have a brief discussion on the second important revolution of 18th century, which had a profound impact on various other historical events of the modern world. Okay, and this is American Revolution. See, basically, 13 English colonies, okay, in the east coast of North America, okay, they fought against their own mother country, England, in order to attain political independence. This incident is generally called as, American Revolution or American War of Independence. This War of Independence, or generally it is basically a war of independence, but we consider it as a revolution due to the effect of this particular historical event. This revolution resulted in the birth of world's first republic and world's first modern constitution. These two concepts, the concept of republic and constitutionalism, then began to influence and inspire the societies of other parts of the world. The English immigration to North America, it roughly began to happen by around 1620. Okay, the ship Mayflower is considered as the first English ship which docked at the shores of North America. And the people who docked this ship, they are generally called as the Pilgrim Fathers. And these individuals, they were basically fleeing the persecution of Church of England, and they searched and they tried to settle in a new land with a euphoric idea, with a source of idealism that would be to establish a perfect society where all can worship as they wish. And after that, inspired by their success, many other English men and women, they began to migrate to the modern day regions of United States of America. And these are the 13 original colonies of the modern day United States of America. As you can see in the figure, almost all of them, okay, all of them were located near to the eastern coast of North America. During 1776 or 1781 or 83, the English settlement had limited to the coastal regions, especially in the eastern coast. It was only after the American independence, the expansion of colonies to the interior parts of the modern day regions of USA began to occur. The war, it basically started as minor skirmishes between the settlers and the Royal British Army. The skirmishes at Lexington and Concord are said to be the beginning of these political conflict between the English settlers and the British Empire. And by 1776, this had turned into a full-blown war between the colonies and their mother country. And by 1781, these English settlers, they managed to defeat, their mother country. Effectively, they had won the war by 1781. Lord Cornwallis surrendered the British army at Yorktown in front of George Washington, and that happened in 1781. Okay, but legally speaking, the modern day country called United States of America came into existence only in 1783, because as per a treaty which is known by the name Treaty of Paris, Britain recognized the independence of these 13 English colonies. So legally speaking, United States of America came into existence by 1783 through the Treaty of Paris. Now let us discuss into the factors that actually led to a war of independence in North America. And for that, we will have to have an understanding about a previous war known by the name 7 Years' War. The 7 Years' War was fought between Great Britain and France, and the outcome of and one of the major outcome of this war was that France lost Canada. Okay, the eastern shores of the modern day Canada region, it was first colonized by the French. Okay, but after 7 Years' War, it got occupied by Great Britain. Um, uh, again, there is also a treaty in the name, the same name, Treaty of Paris, but it happened in 1763. So 1763 Treaty of Paris, the outcome was that France lost Canada. And the absence of France, okay, as their neighbors, it eliminated the fear of these English settlers. Before the 7 Years' War, these English settlers actually needed their mother country for protection against the French Empire. But since France lost Canada and the French threat got eliminated in North America, this situation actually created a sense of independency among these English settlers. Apart from that, the English settlers, they actively participated in this 7 Years' War and they gained valuable military experience. This also actually contributed to some sort of sense of independency to these English settlers. The second important clause which you should remember would be the political structure of colonies, which was created by Britain in North America. Since these settlers, they were of the English origin, Britain never hesitated to introduce constitutional reforms. Even in 1776, okay, bicameral legislature or the principle of constitutionalism was well entrenched in North America, especially in these English colonies. Many of these 13 colonies enjoyed greater degree of self-autonomy also. And this again, contributed to a sense of independency in North America. And the third problem which I would like to discuss would be the problem of taxation. Okay. See, after 7 Years' War, Britain got into a financial trouble, or the 7 Years' War gave much financial trouble to Great Britain. And Britain during that point of time was of the opinion that these colonies, these English settlers in North America, they should also bear the cost of the war. Because the argument put forward by Britain was that the elimination of the French threat was equally beneficial to English settlers as well as Great Britain. So Britain argued that this colony should also bear the cost of the war because the elimination of the French threat benefited them the most. And as a result of that, Britain began to impose various taxes in British colonies. And there is also another angle to it. Okay. So basically, taxation is an effective measure to exercise sovereignty over certain societies or population, and it was crucial to Great Britain because this growing sense of independency. Okay, the sense of independency was growing among these English settlers. So Britain actually, for Britain, more than money, it was basically a symbolism of their exercising of sovereignty. But there lied an inherent defect in that system. Okay. Britain imposed taxes, but none of the English settlers were represented at the British Parliament. See, during 17th and 18th century, or especially after the migration to North America, the general public in Britain or the elite class in Britain, they began to consider these American settlers as second-class citizens. Okay, they began to consider this American English, the English settlers in North America as lower class people. So the British Parliament was also dominated by this elite class, and they refused, to give representation to these English settlers of North America. This was a big issue to these English settlers in North America. Their argument was that if you want to impose taxes on us, then at least put some representatives of us at the British Parliament. Okay, and along with that, Britain began to impose some draconian acts over these English colonies, and the classical example would be the Tea Act Okay. The Tea Act was basically introduced to give monopoly to English East India Company over the trade of tea. Okay, so all the English, all the subjects of the British Crown. Okay, no other subjects of the British Crown were allowed to participate in the trade over tea. Only this company was given the the permission. Okay, a brutal monopoly was given to an English company, and only they were allowed to participate in the trade over tea. And all these things, it created serious dissent and discontent in American colonies. So the slogan, "No representation without taxation," it became so popular during the American War of Independence. And finally, the most important point. Okay, many historians are of the opinion that this War of Independence was basically a conflict between American capitalism and British mercantilism. See, Britain during this point of time, they were following an economic doctrine called doctrine of mercantilism. Doctrine of mercantilism, it advocates the interference of the state in market in order to have favorable balance of trade. Okay, favorable balance of trade simply means exports should be greater than imports, and to ensure that state has every right to interfere in market. This is the argument put forwarded by this economic doctrine. Okay, the doctrine of mercantilism. Britain was following this doctrine. Okay, and the primary focus of Great Britain was to keep the British exports always higher than the British imports. So this came into conflict with American capitalism. In order to ensure higher British exports, Britain began to impose trade restrictions in American colonies. There were restrictions on the type of goods they are supposed to import. There are restrictions on iron manufacturing and textile manufacturing, just to ensure that these people, they purchased goods that were manufactured in Britain, and these people, they were not allowed to build ship. Apart from that, the American colonies, they had to avail the services of British ships only. Okay, for import and export, they were not supposed to use any French or Spanish ships. Only British ships should be relayed for export and import. These types of restrictions were imposed by Britain on these American colonies. Okay. And this created a serious discontent among the free-minded and enthusiastic American capitalists. See, these English settlers, they saw America as a land of opportunities. Okay, a huge portion of land were left to colonize. America was seen as a, that project was seen as a great dream, and the mentality of putting restrictions on these people from the side of Great Britain were not tolerated by these English settlers. Okay. So all these restrictions, it actually proved quite detrimental to the American settlers, or the English settlers of America, okay, who were driven by the free spirit of capitalism. And another minor point which you might add or remember would be, the emergence of secret societies. Okay, secret societies began to emerge in English colonies, especially after 7 Years' War. Okay, by concluding during the conclusion of the treaties, especially after the Treaty of Paris, the English king, he also came up with another proclamation, which is commonly known by the name Royal Proclamation of 1763. And this Royal Proclamation prevented the expansion of English immigration west of Appalachian Mountains. Okay, the regions west of Appalachian Mountains were created as an Indian reserve. Okay, the native Indian population of North America, they were given a promise from the side of Britain that English settlers will not encroach in those areas, and this was a serious issue for the American settlers, because for them the opportunities were vast, and they were not they did not consider Red Indians, okay, to become an obstruction for their plan of expansion. So especially after this Royal Proclamation of 1763, secret societies began to appear in these colonies that were advocating for militant means, okay, to expand to these western regions, as well as militant means to pressurize Britain. So all these actually created, it increased the militancy in the colonial societies. Okay. And the most important of these secret societies was an organization called the Sons of Liberty. The members of this organization, they actually participated in the famous Boston Tea Party. Now, we shall look into the important events, the course of the various events associated with this American War of Independence. This issue became violent by 1770. Okay, some English colonies, they fought the British army, and it is commonly known as the Boston Massacre, which led to the death of 5 colonists. So this actually triggered, armed conflict with British army. And in 1773 occurred, the famous Boston Tea Party. Okay, the members of the Sons of Liberty, they entered into an English ship which was carrying the tea of English East India Company, and they dumped the chest of tea into the sea in order to destroy it. This incident came to be known as Boston Tea Party. Britain wanted to persecute these members, but none of the American colonies associated with the British army to capture these members who participated in this event. And this defense of the American colonies, okay, it angered Great Britain. So by 1774, in order to punish this defense, Britain began to impose some draconian legislations over American colonies, and these legislations are now called as intolerable acts. There were mainly 4 legislations which could be considered as intolerable acts, and they were the Massachusetts Government Act, Administration of Justice Act, the Boston Port Act, and the Quartering Act. And for the American colonists, the Quartering Act was the most problematic one, because this act allowed royal governors of these colonies to house British troops in the homes of citizens without even requiring permission of the owner. So this became quite notorious. Okay, and the discontent against Britain began to grow. And as a result of that, the important political leaders of these 13 colonies, they met at Philadelphia, and this convention of various delegates is commonly known as the First Continental Congress. In this First Continental Congress, there was no mentioning about complete independence from Britain, but this Congress, it denounced taxation without representation and the maintenance of British army in the colonies without their consent. And this Congress also issued a declaration of the rights, declaration of rights to every citizen, including life, liberty, property, assembly, and trial by jury. And in 1775, but Britain never heeded to the demands of this First Continental Congress, and as a result of that, okay, skirmishes with British army happened at Lexington and Concord, and under this background, okay, the Second Continental Congress met. And this Congress is famous for this is known for the famous Olive Branch Petition. Okay, the colonists, they reached out to Great Britain, okay, with an offer which is commonly called as the Olive Branch Petition. They assured to the British crown that they will remain loyal to Britain, but their immediate demand would be the recognition of American rights, that is, no taxation without representation. And they also wanted to end these intolerable acts which was enacted in 1774. But by this time, violence had already broken out, and since situation got so worse, many of the colonies began to frame their own constitution. So even the Olive Branch Petition did not bear any fruits. And finally, these delegates, they met in 1776, okay, and we call it as the Third Continental Congress. And at July 4th, they adopted the famous Declaration of Independence. So even today, Americans, they celebrate their Independence Day on July 4th because of this document called Declaration of Independence. This document was drafted by a five-man committee, okay, which was led by Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, etc. And it was chiefly written by the legendary individual Thomas Jefferson. And this actually converted this local skirmishes into, okay, so when the Declaration of Independence was brought out and it was adopted by the Third Continental Congress, Britain saw this as an act of war. Okay, so after that, a full-blown war broke out between these 13 colonies and Great Britain. And in 1781, the Americans, they managed to defeat the British army at North America. Okay, Lord Cornwallis was the chief of the British army. He surrendered before George Washington at Yorktown, and this happened in 1781. And for the next 2 years, there was negotiation between the colonies and Great Britain. And finally, in 1783, Britain legally accepted the political independence of American colonies, and this came out as Treaty of Paris. And now let us look into the reasons for this American victory. Okay, and we have to give primary credit to the geographical factors. See, the colonists, for them, these regions were their home. Okay, so and they knew their geography well. So knowledge about the geography of this land gave them sufficient advantage of the British army. And British army also had some serious inherent defects while fighting a war in North America. These 13 colonies, they were thousands of miles away from the Great Britain, and this distance actually stretched the supply lines very much. Okay, but the issue of supply was not a serious issue to the American colonies, mainly due to the support offered by France and Spain. Okay. French and Spanish support ensured sufficient supply of arms, ammunitions, and other essentials during this American War of Independence. And as a result of that, Britain could not end or destroy the capacity of the Americans to revolt. And this is considered as a major reason for the destruction of the morale of the British army in North America. And finally, Lord Cornwallis could not escape out to the seas because the French blockaded Yorktown, the port of Yorktown, in 1781. As a result of that, Cornwallis had no other option other than to surrender to these American colonies, which became a matter of Indians' debate, and a matter of shame to Great Britain. And the third point, which I would like to add, would be the leadership of George Washington. He could unite, the major political leaders of all these 13 colonies. That was a daunting task, but the leadership quality of George Washington actually helped in this effort. Then last would be the fighting spirit and the material capacity of the Americans. Since these both fighting parties were of the same origin, you could imagine that the fighting capacity and the fighting spirit, of Americans, it actually matched with their English counterparts. These are the major reasons for the victory of 13 American colonies. And for our examination, the most important thing to discuss would be the outcomes of American Revolution. Okay, world's first republic and world's first constitution was born as a result of this war of independence. And the second important outcome would be, the American capitalism began to flourish in full speed. Okay, and America matched the industrial capacity of, as a result of that, America matched the industrial capacity of England by the end of 19th century. Okay, that's the reason why during First World War and Second World War, America was called as a sleeping giant. Then the third would be, women, non-English white settlers and blacks began to appear in public sphere more than ever before. This was mainly due to the involvement of these categories of people in the war. Okay, during the war, the leaders of the Continental Congress, they never hesitated to accept help offered by anyone. Okay, there were even a black regiment during this point of time to fight, Great Britain. Many non-English white settlers also, okay, joined hands with these Englishmen to overthrow the yoke of British rule in those regions. Even women also gave valuable support, okay, during the course of war, and as a result of that, these categories of people began to appear in public sphere more than ever before. The last thing would be the people of France got influenced by American Revolution. Okay, the French actually got inspired, and the notion of overthrowing a despotic regime, it actually enticed the French society. Okay, so the victory of the American colonies or American War of Independence was a direct cause to French Revolution, which happened in 1789. And in the ideological sphere, we can add one more point. The victory of American colonies and the resultant American Constitution, it all resulted in the spread of various ideals like constitutionalism, rule of law, due process of law, etc. Okay, so the victory of American colonies and the resultant American Constitution created by them, it had a profound effect on societies across the world. And finally, I would like to have a few mentioning about, okay, the American Constitution as well. The first Constitution of America, it was brought out in 1781, and it is called as the Articles of Confederation. But this Constitution, it had a serious limitation, and that was it failed to provide sufficient power to the national government. Okay, a central government to coordinate the activities of these 13 colonies were so vital during that point of time, and this first constitution failed to provide that power. Okay, so as a result of that, the political leaders of United States of America, they met at Philadelphia. Okay, and that assembly is known as the Constitutional Convention. Okay, and it happened in 1787, and this convention was presided by none other than George Washington. Okay, and the Philadelphia Convention, it brought out the new constitution. Okay, which is the present day constitution of USA, and it got ratified in 1789. But that constitution also had serious defects or shortcomings, and eventually, many amendments were made to that constitution to make it, perfect for a democratic society. Okay, and that's the reason why you should also remember this concept, Bill of Rights. Okay, Bill of Rights. There are two Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights that occurred in England, that happened in 1689, and the second was the Bill of Rights that happened in American political history. Okay. Bill of Rights, with respect to American Constitution, refers to the first 10 amendments brought to this Constitution, and all these amendments were brought to ensure protection to individual rights and individual agency. Okay. All these amendments are brought to prevent the intrusion of the state into the private life of Americans. Okay, and these amendments, it granted, many, valuable concepts like trial by jury, due process of law, freedom of religion, press, speech, and association, freedom to assemble peacefully, and so on. Okay, so many, principles, okay, associated with the protection of individual rights and the respect of individual agency found its expression in the first 10 amendments, and collectively they are called as the Bill of Rights. So I think I believe this session would have been so beneficial to you guys. So a big thank you for your patience, and please continue to provide your valuable feedbacks. And if any of you guys want quality printed notes in a brief form, please drop a mail on to ecmains@gmail.com. And once again, thank you.